You're pathetic, Marcus. Absolutely pathetic. The words cut through the sterile office air like broken glass. Marcus Williams froze, his weathered hands still gripping the mop handle. Water dripped from the gray strands onto the pristine marble floor. Victoria Sterling stood in her $1,000 heels, her perfectly manicured finger pointing at the small puddle. Look at this mess. Can't you do anything right? Marcus's shoulders sagged. 23 years he'd worked these halls. 23 years of arriving before dawn, leaving after midnight. And still, the vice president treated him like dirt. Stick till the end. At 80%, there's a reveal you won't see coming. The Pinnacle Corp tower stretched 40 floors into the Seattle sky. At 5 a.m., the building was empty except for the cleaning crew. Marcus preferred it this way. No executives rushing past him like he was invisible. No sneers. No comments about the help. He pushed his cart down the executive wing, wheels squeaking softly. Each office told a story through its mess. Coffee rings on expensive desks. Crumpled papers thrown carelessly on Persian rugs. Leftovers rotting in crystal bowls. Marcus cleaned it all without judgment. That was his gift. Seeing people not for their titles but for who they really were. In the corner office, he found something that made him pause. A child's drawing was taped to the wall behind the CEO's chair. Crayon figures holding hands under a rainbow. At the bottom, in shaky letters, "I love you, Daddy." Marcus smiled. Even the most powerful man in the company was just a father who missed bedtime stories. The elevator dinged. Marcus quickly finished dusting and moved to the next office. He didn't need to look to know who stepped out. Victoria's heels clicked like a countdown to disaster. "Marcus!" Her voice could freeze July rain. He turned slowly. Victoria's platinum hair was pulled back so tight it stretched her face into a permanent scowl. Behind her stood James Chen, the company's head of marketing. Good man. Always said please and thank you. "I need to speak with you," Victoria said. Marcus leaned his mop against the wall. "Yes, ma'am?" "There's been a complaint. About your work quality." The words hit like a physical blow. Marcus had never received a single complaint in over 2 decades. His work was meticulous, perfect. "I don't understand." "The Harrison account," Victoria interrupted. "They were here yesterday for the big presentation. Someone said the conference room smelled like cleaning chemicals. It was embarrassing." James shifted uncomfortably. "Victoria, I was in that meeting. The room was spotless. Mr. Harrison actually complimented." Victoria's glare silenced him. "The point is, we can't have our most important clients distracted by maintenance issues." Marcus felt heat rise in his chest, not anger, something deeper. Disappointment. He'd cleaned that conference room himself using the expensive, nearly scentless products he'd researched and paid for from his own pocket. "I understand your concern," Marcus said quietly, "but I used the premium cleaners. No harsh chemicals. The room should have been perfect." Victoria's lip curled. "Don't argue with me, just be more careful, or we'll find someone who can be." She clicked away, leaving James and Marcus in the echoing hallway. "I'm sorry about that," James whispered. "She's been impossible lately. The board's putting pressure on everyone since the quarterly numbers." Marcus nodded. He'd heard the whispers. Pinnacle Corp was hemorrhaging money. Bad investments. Poor leadership. Rumors of a buyout, but something else nagged at him. Victoria's story didn't add up. He'd worked in that conference room all week. There had been no chemicals. No harsh smells. Why would she lie? The rest of the morning passed in a blur of routine tasks. Marcus moved through the building like a ghost, invisible to the army of suits flooding in at 9 a.m. He knew their schedules, their habits, their secrets. Sarah from accounting always cried on Mondays. Her marriage was falling apart. Tom in legal hadn't slept in days. Coffee cups and energy drink cans littered his office like casualties of war. The security guards played poker in the basement during lunch breaks. Marcus had never said a word. At noon, Marcus retreated to his small janitor's closet on the 15th floor. It wasn't much. A metal chair, a tiny table, and walls lined with supplies. But it was his sanctuary. He pulled out his lunch. Peanut butter sandwich and an apple. Same thing every day for 5 years, ever since Elena got sick. The medical bills had eaten everything else. Marcus bit into the sandwich and closed his eyes. In 6 hours, he'd drive across town to the care facility. He'd sit beside Elena's bed, holding her hand, talking about his day. She wouldn't respond. The stroke had taken that away, but her eyes still lit up when he walked in. That was worth everything. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. The door creaked open and James Chen peeked in. "Marcus, do you have a minute?" "Of course, Mr. Chen, come in." James squeezed into the tiny space. Up close, Marcus could see the stress lines around his eyes. The man was drowning. "I wanted to apologize again. About Victoria. She's been difficult." Marcus set down his sandwich. "She's under pressure. We all are." James laughed bitterly. "You're more understanding than I'd be. If someone humiliated me in front of colleagues like that." "Humiliation is just pride wearing different clothes," Marcus said. "Pride's expensive. I can't afford it." The words hung in the air. James studied Marcus with new interest. "You've been here a long time, haven't you? 23 years next month. You must have seen a lot of changes." Marcus nodded. He'd seen 5 CEOs come and go, watched the company rise and stumble and rise again. He'd seen heroes become villains and villains find redemption. "What do you think about the company's direction?" James asked quietly. It was a dangerous question. Marcus knew the rules. Keep your head down. Do your job. Don't have opinions above your pay grade. But something in James's voice suggested this wasn't idle curiosity. "I think," Marcus said carefully, "that people forget why they started. They get so focused on the destination they lose sight of the journey." James leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Marcus hesitated. Then he decided to take a small risk. 23 years ago, this company had a motto: excellence through compassion. It's still carved in the lobby wall but covered by that new art installation. Most people don't even know it's there. Excellence through compassion, James repeated. I like that. The old CEO, Mr. Davidson, he lived by those words. Used to eat lunch in the cafeteria with the staff. Knew everyone's names. When my Elena got sick, he personally made sure our insurance covered the experimental treatments. James was quiet for a long moment. What happened to him? Retired. Handed the company to his son-in-law. Things changed after that. The story was more complicated, but Marcus didn't share the details. How Davidson's son-in-law had run the company into the ground in 3 years. How the board had panicked and brought in a series of ruthless CEOs focused only on profit. How somewhere along the way, Pinnacle Corp had forgotten its soul. James? A voice called from the hallway. James, where are you? Victoria's heels clicked closer. James stood quickly. I should go. But Marcus, thank you for the perspective. He slipped out, leaving Marcus alone with his sandwich and his thoughts. But something had shifted. For the first time in years, someone had asked for his opinion. Really listened. Treated him like his thoughts mattered. Marcus felt a spark of something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. The afternoon brought its usual chaos. Spilled coffee in the break room, a backed-up toilet on the 20th floor, a crisis in the copy room where someone had jammed the machine trying to print 500 copies of a presentation. Marcus handled each emergency with quiet efficiency. He was the invisible force that kept the building running, the unsung guardian of order. At 3 p.m., he was cleaning the main conference room when he heard voices approaching. He quickly gathered his supplies, but the door opened before he could leave. Victoria entered with 3 other executives. Behind them walked a man Marcus didn't recognize. Tall, maybe 40. Expensive suit, but not flashy. Dark hair, tired eyes. He moved with the careful confidence of someone who'd earned his place in the world. And this is our main conference room, Victoria was saying. State-of-the-art presentation equipment, imported Italian marble table. The stranger nodded politely, but Marcus noticed his eyes weren't on the fancy decorations. They were studying the people. The small details. The coffee stain on the carpet that maintenance had been promising to replace for 6 months. Victoria suddenly noticed Marcus. Her face darkened. Oh, you. She turned to the stranger. I'm sorry. This is just our maintenance staff. Marcus, you can finish later. The stranger looked at Marcus directly. Not through him like most executives did. At him. Actually, I'd like to hear his perspective, the man said. Victoria's smile faltered. I'm sorry? Your maintenance staff. They see this building from a different angle. I'm curious about their insights. The other executives exchanged glances. This wasn't normal protocol. Marcus felt every eye in the room on him. His pulse quickened. This was dangerous territory. Sir, I don't think... Victoria started. The stranger raised a hand. What's your name? Marcus Williams, sir. How long have you worked here, Marcus? 23 years. That's impressive loyalty. What keeps you here? The question caught Marcus off guard. He'd expected something about cleaning schedules or supply budgets, not this. I believe in what this company used to stand for, Marcus said carefully. Used to. Victoria's face was red now. Sir, I really don't think this is— Please, the stranger said. His voice was calm but carried absolute authority. I'd like to hear this. Marcus felt the moment balancing on a knife's edge. He could give the safe answer. Keep his head down. Protect his job. Or he could tell the truth. Elena's face flashed in his mind. Her eyes still bright with love despite everything they'd lost. Excellence through compassion. This company was built on the idea that success means lifting others up, Marcus said, that profits should serve people, not the other way around. I've watched that vision fade over the years, but I keep hoping it might come back. The silence stretched like a held breath. Victoria looked like she might explode. Sir, this is highly irregular. Our maintenance staff aren't equipped to discuss corporate strategy. Actually, the stranger said, still watching Marcus, I think he understands it better than most. He stepped closer. Marcus caught a hint of cologne. Expensive but understated. What would you change, Marcus? If you could. This was it. The moment Marcus could ruin everything or perhaps impossibly make a difference. He thought about Sarah crying over her divorce papers. About Tom's bloodshot eyes from working 18-hour days. About the security guards who hid their poker games because even a moment of joy felt like a crime in this sterile tower. About Elena, alone in that bed, while he worked 2 shifts to pay for her care. I'd remember that this building is full of people, not just positions, Marcus said. People with families and dreams and problems. I'd treat everyone like they matter. Because they do, the stranger nodded slowly. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He extended his hand to Marcus. Thank you for your honesty. Marcus hesitated, then shook the offered hand. The man's grip was firm, genuine. Sir, Victoria said through gritted teeth, we really should continue the tour. Of course. The stranger released Marcus's hand. Thank you again, Marcus. Your perspective has been illuminating. The group moved toward the door, but as they reached the threshold, the stranger turned back. One more question, Marcus, if you don't mind. Yes, sir. Do you believe this company can change? Marcus looked at the faces around him. Victoria's barely contained fury. The other executives' confusion and discomfort. The weight of 23 years pressing down on his shoulders, but he also saw something else. A flicker of genuine interest in the stranger's eyes. A hunger for truth in a world built on careful lies. I believe anything is possible, Marcus said, if people remember who they used to be. The stranger smiled. It was the first real smile Marcus had seen in that conference room in years. I hope you're right. Then they were gone, leaving Marcus alone with his mop and bucket and the echo of his own words. But something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in decades, Marcus felt like he'd been truly seen. He had no idea that everything was about to change. The rest of his shift passed in a haze. Marcus moved through his routine, but his mind kept returning to the stranger's questions. The way he'd listened, really listened. Most executives looked at Marcus like furniture, useful but forgettable. This man had looked at him like a person, like someone who mattered. At 6 p.m., Marcus was cleaning the executive washroom when he heard Victoria's voice through the thin wall. Completely inappropriate. Asking a janitor for business advice? The board will not be pleased, Victoria. A man's voice, calm but firm. I think you're overreacting. Am I? James, we can't have our staff thinking they can just speak freely to potential investors. There's a hierarchy for a reason. Marcus froze. Investors. The stranger had been a potential investor. Maybe that's the problem, James said. Maybe our hierarchy has become a wall instead of a ladder. Don't start with that idealistic nonsense. This is business, not a charity. People like Marcus need to stay in their lane. People like Marcus? You know what I mean. There was a long pause. Actually, Victoria, I don't think I do. The voices moved away, but Marcus's hands were shaking. He'd overstepped. Badly. Victoria would make him pay for it. But as he finished cleaning and packed up his supplies, Marcus realized something surprising. He didn't regret it. For 23 years, he'd been invisible, a ghost haunting the margins of other people's success. Today, for just a few minutes, he'd been seen. That was worth whatever consequences were coming. Marcus locked the supply closet and headed for the elevator. The building was nearly empty now, just security guards and the night cleaning crew taking over his duties. As the elevator descended, Marcus caught his reflection in the polished steel doors. Gray hair, lined face, shoulders permanently curved from decades of bending and scrubbing, but his eyes looked different, brighter, alive. The elevator dinged at the lobby level. As the doors opened, Marcus stepped into the marble-floored atrium. The company's original motto was indeed hidden behind the modern art installation. Just as he'd told James, excellence through compassion. Marcus wondered if those words could ever mean something again. He was about to find out. But first, he had somewhere to be. Someone who needed him. Marcus pushed through the revolving doors and stepped into the Seattle evening. The rain had stopped, and for the first time in months, he could see stars between the clouds. Elena was waiting, and for the first time in years, Marcus had a story worth telling. The next morning hit like a sledgehammer. Marcus arrived at 5 a.m. as always, but his keycard wouldn't work. Red light. Access denied. He tried again. Same result. Having trouble? Victoria's voice dripped honey over poison. She stood behind him in the lobby, arms crossed, smile sharp as a blade. My card seems to be malfunctioning, Marcus said quietly. Oh, it's working perfectly. You've been reassigned. Marcus felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Reassigned? Basement level. Storage and maintenance only. No executive floors. No client areas. Victoria stepped closer. No more inappropriate conversations with our guests. The security guard at the desk wouldn't meet Marcus's eyes. 23 years of morning greetings, and now Bill looked away like Marcus was contagious. Victoria handed him a new key card. Your supervisor will explain your new duties. The basement reeked of industrial cleaner and forgotten things. Concrete walls sweated moisture. Fluorescent lights buzzed like dying insects. Marcus's new office was a storage room filled with broken chairs and obsolete computer equipment. No window, no ventilation. A punishment cell disguised as a workspace. Welcome to the dungeon. Marcus turned to find Danny Rodriguez, head of basement maintenance. 65 years old, bent spine, kind eyes behind thick glasses. Don't take it personal, Danny said. Victoria Sterling's got a talent for making people disappear. You just got on her bad side. What did you do? Marcus asked. Danny laughed bitterly. Asked for a raise after 30 years? 30 years of keeping this building's guts running, and she told me I was overvaluing my contribution. They spent the morning in the mechanical rooms. Boilers that heated 40 floors. Water pumps that supplied thousands of people. Electrical systems that powered an empire. This is the real heart of Pinnacle Corp, Danny explained. Everything upstairs is just theater. Down here's where the work gets done. Marcus learned the rhythm of the basement. The security guards who played poker during lunch breaks. The overnight cleaning crew who spoke 6 languages between them. The maintenance workers who kept the entire building alive. Invisible people doing invisible work. But something was wrong. Marcus noticed it immediately. Equipment failures that shouldn't happen. Systems breaking down faster than normal. How long has the north boiler been acting up? Marcus asked. Danny shrugged. 3 months. Keep requesting parts, but Victoria says it's not in the budget. What about the water pressure issues on floors 30 through 35? Same story. We patch what we can, pray for the rest. Marcus studied the maintenance logs. A pattern emerged. Critical repairs delayed. Budget requests denied. Essential equipment limping along on borrowed time. The building was slowly falling apart from the inside. At lunch, Marcus sat alone in the basement break room. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. His peanut butter sandwich tasted like cardboard. The basement door opened. James Chen descended the stairs, looking around nervously. Marcus, are you down here? Mr. Chen? Marcus stood quickly. Is everything okay? James looked uncomfortable. I heard about your reassignment. I wanted to apologize. You don't need to apologize for someone else's decisions. Actually, I do. James sat heavily in a plastic chair. I should have spoken up yesterday. When Victoria was treating you like that. Marcus studied the younger man's face. Dark circles under his eyes. Stress lines deep as canyons. The company's in trouble, isn't it? Marcus asked quietly. James looked startled. What makes you say that? Marcus gestured around the basement. Deferred maintenance, equipment failures, cutting corners on essential repairs. I've seen this pattern before. You have? 23 years. I've watched this company go through 5 CEOs. Each time things got bad, they started here, in the basement, where nobody important would notice. James was quiet for a long moment. The board meeting is tomorrow. Quarterly results. If the numbers are bad, layoffs. Worse, there's talk of selling to a competitor. Breaking up the company for parts. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. What about the employees? What do you think? They sat in silence, surrounded by the mechanical heartbeat of a dying building. That investor yesterday, Marcus said carefully. He seemed different. James looked up sharply. Different how? He listened. Really listened. Most executives hear what they expect to hear. He heard what I actually said. His name is Alexander Davidson. Marcus froze. Davidson? You know him? Marcus's mind raced. Davidson, the old CEO's family name. But that was impossible. The son had died years ago. Car accident. Right after college, I thought. I heard the Davidson family left the company. James shook his head. Alexander is the founder's grandson. He's been working in other industries. Made a fortune in tech startups. Now he's interested in coming home. The pieces clicked together in Marcus's mind, the stranger's questions. His genuine interest in the company's original values. The way he'd looked at Marcus like he was seeing something familiar. He's not just an investor, Marcus said slowly. He's family. The board doesn't know yet. He's keeping his identity quiet until he decides whether to make an offer. And if he does, everything changes. Or everything dies trying. James stood to leave, then paused. Marcus, yesterday, when you talked about the company's original values. Excellence through compassion. How do you know about that? Marcus smiled sadly. Your Mr. Davidson's grandfather used to eat lunch with the maintenance crew every Friday. Said we were the backbone of the operation. That was back when people mattered more than profit margins. He sounds like he was a good man. The best. Marcus looked around the basement room. I keep hoping that spirit might come back someday. After James left, Marcus returned to his work. But his mind was spinning with possibilities. Alexander Davidson, the founder's grandson, back after 20 years. Looking for something. Listening to voices that had been silent too long. At 4 p.m., the basement door opened again. This time it was Victoria. She clicked down the concrete steps like a predator descending into a cave. Marcus, having a productive day in your new environment? Yes, ma'am. Good, because I have another assignment for you. She held out a thick folder. These are the maintenance records for the executive floors. I need them digitized by tomorrow morning. Marcus opened the folder. Hundreds of pages. Handwritten logs going back decades. Work that would take days, not hours. All of it? He asked. All of it. And Marcus? Victoria's smile could freeze summer rain. If it's not perfect, you'll be looking for a new job. She clicked away, leaving Marcus alone with an impossible task. But as he opened the first page, Marcus saw something that made his heart race. Maintenance logs from 1987, the year Alexander Davidson's father had died. Records of repairs, upgrades, improvements, all signed off by the old CEO himself. Page after page of evidence. The company's original commitment to excellence, to caring for every detail, no matter how small. Marcus worked through the night, typing each record with meticulous care. But he wasn't just digitizing maintenance logs. He was preserving history, the soul of a company that had forgotten its own heart. As dawn broke through the basement windows, Marcus finished the last page. His eyes burned, his fingers cramped, but he'd done it every record, every detail, every signature that proved what Pinnacle Corp used to stand for. He printed the files and placed them in a neat stack. Then he made one additional copy, just in case. At 7 a.m., Victoria arrived to collect the work. She flipped through the pages looking for errors she could use against him. She found none. Adequate, she said finally. Don't expect praise for doing your job. After she left, Marcus sat back in his chair, exhausted but oddly hopeful. Somewhere upstairs, Alexander Davidson was preparing for the board meeting that would determine Pinnacle Corp's future. And now Marcus had given him something no spreadsheet could provide: the memory of what his family had built, the proof of what it could become again. Marcus closed his eyes and thought of Elena. Tonight he'd have a story worth telling, a story about second chances and forgotten dreams and the possibility that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys win. But first he had to survive whatever Victoria Sterling planned to throw at him next. The board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 1:45, Marcus heard shouting from the executive floors above. Even through concrete and steel Fury carried, Danny found him replacing filters in the air system. Something big's happening upstairs. Security's been called to the boardroom. Marcus's hands stilled on the equipment. What kind of something? The kind that ends with people cleaning out their desks. At 3 p.m., the basement door burst open. Victoria Sterling stumbled down the stairs, her perfect hair disheveled, her face red with rage. "You," she pointed at Marcus. "This is your fault." Marcus set down his tools. "I'm sorry. Don't play innocent. That investor Davidson, he had maintenance records. 23 years worth. Records that made the board look incompetent." Marcus kept his expression neutral. "I digitized the files you requested. You gave him copies. I gave you everything you asked for." Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You think you're clever? You think you've won something?" "I think I did my job." "Your job?" Victoria laughed bitterly. "Your job is to empty trash cans and mop floors. How to play corporate spy." The basement door opened again. Alexander Davidson descended the stairs, but now Marcus saw him differently. This wasn't just an investor. This was the heir returning home. "Ms. Sterling," Alexander said calmly, "I was looking for you." Victoria spun around, her mask of professionalism snapping back into place. "Mr. Davidson, I was just addressing some personnel issues." "Actually, that's perfect timing." Alexander moved past Victoria to stand beside Marcus. "Because Marcus is exactly who I wanted to see." Victoria's face went white. "Sir?" Alexander pulled out a thick folder. "The maintenance records. These documents tell quite a story. 23 years of detailed reports. Equipment recommendations ignored. Safety concerns dismissed. Budget requests denied. Sir, I can explain. Can you explain why critical repairs were delayed for months? Why the north boiler has been running on emergency protocols for 3 months? Why there are water pressure issues affecting 15 floors?" Victoria stammered. "Budget constraints. Board oversight. Proper channels. Proper channels." Alexander nodded slowly. "Marcus, how long would it take to fix the north boiler if you had the right parts?" Marcus felt every eye on him. This was the moment. The choice between safety and honesty. 4 hours, he said quietly. "And the cost? $8,000 for parts. $2,000 for labor." Alexander turned back to Victoria. $10,000. To fix a system that heats half the building. How much did the company spend on the lobby art installation last month? Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. $250,000, Marcus said. Alexander raised an eyebrow. "You know that?" "I cleaned the conference room where they discussed it." "I hear things. I bet you do." Alexander studied Marcus with new interest. "What else do you hear?" This was dangerous territory. But Marcus thought of Elena, of Danny's bent spine after 30 years of service, of all the invisible people who kept this place running while executives collected bonuses. "I hear that morale is at an all-time low, that people are updating their resumes, that the security guards take longer lunch breaks because they're interviewing for other jobs." "And why is that?" Marcus looked directly at Victoria. "Because people don't feel valued. They feel like expenses to be minimized instead of assets to be invested in." Victoria found her voice. "This is completely inappropriate. This man has no business discussing corporate strategy." "Actually," Alexander interrupted, "he has more business than most." He turned to Marcus. 23 years. You've seen this company through 5 CEOs. You've watched it grow and struggle and survive. What would you change if you could?" Marcus felt the weight of decades pressing on his shoulders. Every slight, every dismissal, every time he'd been treated like furniture instead of a person, but also every kindness, every moment of connection, every time someone had seen him as human. "I'd remember that a company isn't a building or a profit margin," Marcus said. "It's people, and people respond to how they're treated. Give me an example." Marcus hesitated, then decided to risk everything. Sarah in accounting. She's been crying every Monday for 6 months. Her marriage is falling apart, but she's too proud to ask for help. If someone just offered her flexible hours to see a counselor, she'd be twice as productive. Alexander made a note. Go on. Tom in legal works 18-hour days because he's afraid of being seen as weak. If someone told him that work-life balance was company policy, not just a poster in the break room, he'd stop making expensive mistakes from exhaustion. And the security guards? Marcus smiled slightly. They're good men doing honest work. If someone acknowledged that, maybe asked their opinion on building security improvements, they'd stop looking for other jobs. Victoria stepped forward. Sir, this is absurd. You can't run a company based on the opinions of janitors. Actually, Alexander said quietly, my grandfather did exactly that. The basement went silent except for the hum of machinery. He used to eat lunch with the maintenance crew every Friday. Said they knew more about the company's real health than any board member. Alexander looked around the basement. Excellence through compassion. That was his motto. Marcus felt tears burning his eyes. You're him. You're old Mr. Davidson's grandson. I am. And I've been watching this company forget everything he built. Alexander's voice hardened. Ms. Sterling, you're fired. Effective immediately. Victoria's face went through every color in the spectrum. You can't. I have contracts. The board will never The board just voted unanimously to accept my acquisition offer. I now own 60% of Pinnacle Corp. Alexander's smile was ice cold. I can do whatever I want. Victoria stumbled toward the stairs, her perfect world crashing around her ears. Alexander turned back to Marcus. I have a proposition for you, sir. I need someone who understands this company from the ground up. Someone who sees people instead of profit margins. Someone who's been here long enough to remember what we used to stand for. Marcus's heart hammered. I don't understand. Alexander extended his hand. Would you consider a position as Director of Employee Relations? Your first job would be implementing those changes you mentioned. Marcus stared at the offered hand. 23 years of being invisible, of being dismissed and diminished and forgotten, and now this. What about my janitorial duties? Alexander smiled. The first genuine smile Marcus had seen from him. Marcus, respect isn't about the work you do. It's about how you do it. You've been leading this company from the basement for 23 years. It's time everyone else recognized that. Marcus shook Alexander's hand, feeling the calluses of honest work meet the firm grip of inherited responsibility. There's one condition, Marcus said. Name it. Danny Rodriguez gets the maintenance supervisor position he should have had years ago, and Sarah gets her flexible hours, and Tom gets an assistant. Alexander laughed. Done. Anything else? Marcus thought of Elena waiting in her bed across town, waiting for him to visit with stories of his day. Tonight he'd have the best story of his life, just one thing. Could I finish out my shift? Old habits. Marcus, Alexander said. You can work however you want. That's what excellence through compassion means. As Alexander headed upstairs to rebuild his grandfather's legacy, Marcus returned to his maintenance tasks. But everything had changed. He wasn't invisible anymore, he never had been. If this story touched your heart, hit subscribe for more tales of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if you had the power to change everything? Your story might be next.